It's good to see you again. And if you can and did get past the title of this sojourn into time, in which I'm going to attempt to instruct you in the necessity for the use and application of the term forgiveness, that is, the title to this little escapade is Forgiveness is the Key to Happiness and Salvation. We're going to look at it in a particular perspective today, because if you've come this far with me, and I'm sitting now with you ostensibly as an instructor, you've told me to give you information about this mind training so you can decide within your own mind whether you'd actually like to begin to apply it to the solutions that you're searching for within your own conceptual self. So we might just as well go to the problem that you're going to be faced with in this teaching. And that's the very simple necessity that you forgive. Now, I'm going to share this with you as a human mind, as an idea of the necessity to retain my existent association based on judgment, attack, defense, being a human, occupying this world. How could I possibly forgive? In a particular sense, within the auspices of your consciousness association in time, forgiveness is impossible. You want to look at that with me? Do you really think, and I'll use my Savior and the author of this course, Jesus Christ of Nazareth, who says very simply, if you want to enter the kingdom, you're going to have to forgive your enemy. You're going to have to give everything away that you have and follow me to heaven. The problem that you have with it is based on the contentions of your association with yourself right there. Okay? The practicality of your necessity to judge the message that I am giving you is what's denying you total access to it. Could you hear that? Those of you who have been listening to me a little bit. What I'm offering you is forgiveness based on my evolved, total, emotional, enlightening experience that it's impossible for me to grieve because I am whole as God created me. All right? So that the forgiveness that I'm offering you does not come from a conceptual idea about myself that requires that I measure the nature in the correspondence of the feeling of protective necessity that I express within my own mind. If you were to look at that with me, the training that has been involved in your necessity to forgive has been only to the necessity where you can retain a judgmental, conflictual, combative attack and defense in association with yourself in order to protect the nature of what you think you are. And here I am now, right here, right now, right smack in the middle of whatever you think that process of consciousness mind is. Okay? The name that you have been given in the defense of yourself that disallows the totality of forgiveness. Because forgiveness would involve the admission of perfection. And perfection would involve the admission of an alternative not contained within the aspects, degrees, and intervals of your conceptual mind. What has been required for you? Training. Look at me. We have been training our minds to the idea of the possibility of forgiveness, then to the joy that we experience in the realization that conflict, judgment, needs to define life were not necessary in order for us to enjoy the happiness of the mind of God, the mind of creative reality, which is what we are. The idea that training of forgiveness is necessary is particular to you, because you believe that having trained your mind to define yourself, you can emotionally arrive at conclusions of forgiveness. And while that is true, they will always be based on the defense of your inherent conflict in your conceptual mind. So the process of this training has been to get you to momentarily release the defenses of the conflict that have identified yourself. This will become accumulative in the energy factor of the mind of universal consciousness if you let it, very simply because we are applying our minds. Having trained our mind to distinguish between good and evil, what we desire and what we don't want, in order to subsist until we annihilate ourselves, it's possible, if you'll trust me for a minute here, to train your mind in a continuing fashion to an alternative that's literally not of this world. An alternative that can show you the bright reality that's deep within you, but that you've been covering because of your determination to forgive sufficiently in order to exist in what you think is a temporal identity. So this is going to be a lesson in forgiveness, and it contains in it some of the most beautiful descriptions of your condition as a human being as you're liable to discover, and almost all of this lesson you will find offensive. And the reason that you find it offensive, it is that you literally do not believe that the association of yourself that is demonstrating your need to protect the nature of what you define as life or love is not true. That you've been in a dream of death, and that the alternative I am offering you there in that consciousness condition is one of love. The love that I now express for you in this mind training has nothing whatsoever to do with your judgment of our relationship. So in effect, the teachings of my Savior and yours, Jesus Christ, say simply give up judgment. Let judgment come from one who knows of your perfection. And certainly the one who knows of your perfection cannot be a projection of your own mind, very simply since the projections of your own mind that you identify as the human condition, the human beings, are being held in your mind by you in order to retain the grievance. Let's go back just for a moment and look at the two previous lessons that led us up to this moment of the beginning now of the serenity. And they are the lessons that I rest in God, okay? I rest in God, and I am as God created me. And then we'll begin with this idea that it's actually possible for you to forgive totally and love in the realization of who you really are. Watch with me. Now let's rest together in God. We ask for rest today and quietness unshaken by the world's appearances. We ask for peace and stillness in the midst of all the turmoil born of clashing dreams. We ask for safety and for happiness, although we seem to look on danger and on sorrow. And we have the thought that will answer our asking with what we request today. I rest in God. This thought will bring to you the rest and quiet and peace and stillness and the safety and the happiness that you seek. I rest in God. This thought has power to wake the sleeping truth in you, whose vision sees beyond appearances, to that same truth in everyone and everything that there is. Here is the end of suffering for all the world, and everyone who ever came and yet will come to linger for a while. Here is the thought in which the Son of God is born again to recognize himself. I rest in God. Completely undismayed, this thought will carry you through storms and strife
past misery and pain, past loss and death, and onward to the certainty of God. There is no suffering it cannot heal. There is no problem that it cannot solve, and no appearance but will turn to truth before the eyes of you who rest in God.